It's recall day in the Golden State. Will Gavin Newsom keep his job? All signs point to yes. Apple will unveil the newest iPhone model today and why you should update your iPhone software immediately if you haven't already. And judging all the looks from the Met Gala last night with Cheddar's chief fashion critic, Baker Machado, with me. Tuesday Need to Know. Let's go. Tuesday, everybody. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for September 14th. And as you can hear, I am Carlo Versano here with Baker Machado filling in. Jill's got a personal day to go to the doctor today. She'll be back tomorrow. But in the meantime, yes, you hear him. The Sultan of Swag, the big cheese of cheddar.
You know it.
What's up, dude?
Oh, my God, Carlo. So, the other day, last time we were on this podcast, you were saying how you had no sleep. Francesca was just up all night. That was basically the case with me and my husband last night at our house because we had the gay Super Bowl last night. I had the Vogue live stream on my iPad. My husband was sifting through the Twitter updates. I had the E coverage on the television. I was up till maybe 3 o'clock this morning finding out more about the dresses. It was literally amazing last night.
I love it. Okay, well, hold that thought, Baker. We got a lot of news, but I promise you we will get to the Met Gala at the end here.
All right, so yes, we do have a lot of news to dive into on this Tuesday morning, Carlo, and let's start with what happened in California yesterday. The president flew to Long Beach last night, to campaign on behalf of Governor Gavin Newsom, who faces a big recall election today, only the second in the state's history. And you know, of course, how that went back in 2003 with Arnold. After showing some tightening earlier in the summer, polls now suggest Gavin Newsom all but assured to beat the effort to remove him from office. Now, should the polls be massively off, and hey, we've seen that once or twice before, Gavin Newsom's most likely replacement would be the conservative talk show host, Larry Elder, who has the support of more than a quarter of likely voters. Now, Gavin Newsom just needs a majority to vote no on the recall effort for him to keep his job. This is why he, Kamala Harris, so many other people saying, just vote no on the first question and leave the second question, which is who you want to replace him, blank, Carlo.
Yes, exactly. It's a little bit confusing. I thought it was a little bit odd, actually, that they sent Biden out there, given that the polling shows that Newsom seems to have this in the bag. But I guess the DNC or whomever figured that, better safe than sorry, would look bad if Newsom somehow lost and Biden hadn't gone. That's, I guess, my guess what they were thinking. But yeah, this is, it's much different this time around than the last time we saw this movie, as you said, back in 2003 when Gray Davis got the boot from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Total recall.
Yes, exactly. God, the tabloids back then, it was just made for
those
kind of
headlines. You remember all of the celebrities that were running for governor. You had Gary Coleman, you had the porn star Mary Carey, you had Ariana Huffington. The list went on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so anyway, Gray Davis, that back then, that had to do with an energy crisis. He was really, this has to do with the pandemic. That's basically why this recall started. Gray Davis was polling in the 20s back then. Newsom, he's polling in the low 50s, so he's going to be just fine, I think. The whole thing is a total waste of time and money. But if you're just asking yourself why this seems to happen in California, I know that Jill and I had asked ourselves that question a little bit. There's a bunch of states. I think there's something like 12 or 13 states that actually have these recall provisions on the books. But California is special because they have this obsession with direct democracy over there, for better or worse, which means it's easier to get these recall efforts going. And actually, every governor in the state's history has actually faced a recall effort, but only Gray Davis actually faced a recall election. Usually, it's just too expensive to get on the ballot in a state that big.
Oh, so Carlo, you mentioned Democrats sending basically all the big guns out to go out and support Gavin Newsom. They've also maybe spent 4 times that from what Republicans have just to keep Gavin Newsom there. And it's interesting because you mentioned the energy crisis is the reason that really took down Gray Davis. COVID really was the reason why this recall election got, going in the first place. You had a lot of Republican and conservative voters in California furious at Gavin Newsom for locking down the state in the aggressive measures he took earlier on in the pandemic. But what's interesting now, if anything, COVID might actually save Gavin Newsom's job this time around because he has really campaigned on Larry Elder, the conservative talk show host, basically saying he will strip and end all mask mandates, so many different sort of things that he would do to basically that are different regarding the pandemic. And we know mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all those things poll incredibly well, especially in a blue state like California. So that has really helped Gavin Newsom here. I think the polling average right now shows about a 15 to almost 20% chance in terms of the polls that Gavin Newsom keeps his job. So the number is really, really high for him there, Carlo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's speaking of COVID, the CDC has signaled that COVID vaccines for children under 12 could be given the green light by the end of the year. A big news there for parents. We should know Dr. Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA chief, previously said he thinks the Pfizer shot could be approved for kids by the end of next month, but we'll see exactly what happens there. Meanwhile, two departing FDA officials are among a group of scientists arguing that the general population doesn't need those booster shots at this time. That, no doubt, Carlo, puts them at big odds from the Biden administration on this.
We really need more clarity on the booster question when it comes to boosters in the general population. I mean, it seems like, are we trying to stop every breakthrough infection? Because that's a losing battle, I think we all know now. And, frankly, I would rather my booster go to somebody in like India or in sub-Saharan Africa who needs their first shot. That would more help us get over this than me getting a third shot.
And just really quickly, Africa, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a lot of countries in Africa where the vaccination rate is below 1% in a lot of those places. So we forget this is a global fight to end this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll happily take the booster when it comes, I guess, but I don't think anybody should think that the boosters are going to be this sort of game changer. If there's going to be really a game changer, I think it's going to be not only that the vaccines get approved for kids, but that people actually vaccinate their children, which is another big if. We're going to have to do this whole song and dance about vaccine hesitancy in children once that approval comes.
Oh, yeah, good point. And by the way, my husband has already received his third shot already because my husband has some health issues. So I really think you're probably, if you're going to see booster shots given out, it's going to be for the elderly. It's going to be for the immunocompromised. But it's interesting, the differentiated view between the Biden administration and the CDC. As I mentioned, the CDC and a lot of those scientists don't think a lot of us need those booster shots, yet the Biden administration is really coming out advocating for them. Let's stay in Washington. Capitol Police now looking into whether an armed white supremacist that they arrested outside the headquarters of the DNC is linked to that upcoming right-wing rally that is planned for the Capitol this weekend. The California man was pulled over in a pickup truck without a license plate that had swastikas carved into the rearview mirror and also had a pair of animal horns attached to the grill of his car. So weird. Okay, so he was also carrying a machete and a bayonet also. The incident came amid heightened security ahead of the big J6 rally on Saturday, that in support of the jailed January 6th rioters. Now, police aren't taking any chances this time, Carlo. The fencing has gone right back up at the Capitol and the Capitol complex as we speak. Capitol Police even said yesterday that it's going to stay there until they at least believe things are safe, and then they'll take it right back down again. But they're not taking any chances to make sure that we do not have a similar situation that happened on January 6th again.
It's so sad because the Capitol, one of those, it's a public space, really. It's our building. It's our house. We should be able to go in and out and, hang out on the Capitol grounds, but we can't do that now because of all these freaks. Just on this one guy that they arrested yesterday, first of all, a bayonet and a machete, I guess, was he going to fight the Revolutionary War? I mean,
he does have horns on his car for some weird reason, so.
It's not like it's hard to get a gun in this country. But I just love that this guy drove all the way from California to Washington in a car with swastikas painted on the mirrors, no tags, antlers on the grill, and he never got pulled over. Like, hey, it's nice to be white, I guess, for when you need to drive your hate mobile across the country without getting any notice from the police.
Well, look, Carlo, the FBI has said one of the biggest threats to this country is domestic terrorism. And this is one of the big things right here. And you also have to remember, around the January 6th insurrection, we still to this day have not found the individual or individuals who put those pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC as well. And we still have that surveillance photo of seeing somebody who was completely covered up putting it there. So again, this just adds to sort of the urgency about what a big threat domestic terrorism is to this country.
That's a great point.
Let's talk tech here. A big acquisition in the digital space as Intuit, the company that does TurboTax. They're buying email marketing giant Mailchimp for $12 billion in cash and stock. Now, the deal is Intuit's largest ever, and it also comes as the company is betting on a continued recovery for small businesses. Mailchimp, which started as a digital marketing agency before they pivoted to host email newsletters, is a privately held company here, Carlo.
Nice little windfall for whoever started Mailchimp.
Yeah,
right?
no
Wow.
joke.
Anytime Intuit is in the news, I always think about the colossal racket that they are running, thanks to
For the taxes?
the taxes, right? I'm talking about TurboTax, of course. There's, I know this is not exactly what we're talking about here, but just lots of countries have return-free filing. Right? We don't. It is a uniquely American thing that we spend our own time and our own money filing our taxes with information that the government already has, by the way, right?
True.
And the reason for that is because the commercial tax filing industry, led by Intuit, spends a boatload of money lobbying Congress to keep it that way. I mention this just because, again, anytime this company is in the news, I just think about the scam that is being perpetrated on us, the American consumer, at the behalf of the tax prep industry. And, you never hear anybody complain. People always complain. They complain about their liberties or their, tyranny in the United States with the vaccine mandates or whatever. To the extent there's any tyranny in America, it's like this kind of thing, right? It is that the system works. The system works to protect big business at the expense of the consumer. And nobody ever seems to have a problem with that. They'll happily pay $99 to use TurboTax to file their taxes when the government could just do it themselves.
And I think there was a lawsuit. I'll have to research this, but I believe there was a lawsuit that forced companies like Intuit to at least offer a free version of a lot of their software. But I've read some stories that the free version is literally the most complex, difficult thing on the face of the planet, and it basically also allows you to do nothing when it comes to filing your taxes, like not making it easy for anybody whatsoever out there, forcing you essentially to have to pay to get your taxes done.
Yes, that they purposely made free file almost impossible for regular people to understand, so that they can then direct you to software like TurboTax.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Apple. A lot of big stuff happening with Apple today. They're going to unveil, Carlo, a brand new iPhone, the iPhone 13 today, that at a virtual event streamed from their Cupertino headquarters. Also, we're getting a new Apple Watch and even a possible update to AirPods as well. Meanwhile, this is a big one if you have an iPhone right here today. Apple users being urged to upgrade their software immediately. This is after security experts discovered a flaw that allowed a highly advanced form of spyware to be installed on Apple products without requiring so much as a click from users. This, by the way, came from Israel. They found out people were clicking on these text messages, these random spam text messages, and allowing these sort of spyware bots to get into your phone after this.
It's actually worse than that. So this is the infamous software known as Pegasus that's made by that very controversial Israeli security firm NSO. But usually with this spyware, it's like you said, it requires some sort of affirmative action on the part of the user. You have to click a link, you have to open a file, click through on some text message or whatever. This is the thing that's different. They're now able to infect a device without the user actually having to do anything to let them in, right? So they have this software can basically act as a Trojan horse without you knowing. It can then keep the camera and the microphone on. It can go through. It can read anything that's on that phone. It basically gives you access to the phone as though you're the user. They found the software on the phone of a Saudi activist, which is why security experts are now telling you to update your iOS software because Apple has patched it at least for now. So I think more to come on this. This is a big one. But bottom line here, update your software. Can't hurt. Always stay updated on the latest updates.
Oh, and on top of that, don't click suspicious text message links. And I'm saying that as somebody who gets maybe 15 to 20 spam text messages from these people who think that they're becoming very smart in terms of how they're crafting things.
Oh, they're getting way worse. SMS texting.
Yes, and I'm saying that as somebody because my mother falls for these all of the time, my poor mother, and she clicks on these things and then all of a sudden her Instagram gets locked out or all these other sorts of things. So yes, just always be completely careful with what you're clicking on.
But quickly, you know what? It makes me think of what we were just talking about with TurboTax, right? It's like we as consumers are just constantly taken advantage of in this country by forces both fine and evil, and nobody ever cares. Nobody ever does anything. The government doesn't care. There's no legislation is never passed.
Nope.
We just let it happen. Like, oh, okay. I mean, my phone is basically unusable as a telephone now, right? I get probably 15 calls a day that are spam. I'm now getting the SMS spam text.
Yep.
And you're right. To your point, I'm smart enough to know that this is, I shouldn't say I'm smart. I'm savvy enough to know that this stuff is spam. But I look at somebody like my mother. She doesn't know this stuff, right? Who are the people out there that, honestly, Elizabeth Warren, one thing that I really liked about her is that she appeared to actually care about this sort of like consumer protection stuff, and nobody else really seems to.
And by the way, California, pretty much the only state in the country that has data privacy laws protecting consumers. The hope would be that you might see that trickle to other states, or even the federal government pass some sort of legislation to protect consumers
that'd be nice.
From this. But again, there's no interest, obviously, Congress. That's very far down the list, apparently, for Congress. Carlo, let's talk about the other big thing that happened yesterday. Jeopardy, the brand new season, debuted last night, and you would have seen the last few episodes. Well, let's say the first few episodes and the last few episodes with Mike Richards that he had taped when he was hired and then fired as the show's host. The game show.
Grand opening, grand closing.
Yes, it was also very surreal to watch last night. By the way, the game show, I mean, amid all the crazy drama that's happening with the host, there is a historic winning run happening right now. Contestant Matt Amodio won his 19th straight match yesterday. He's currently now third place on the all-time winning list behind Ken Jennings and James Holzhauer. Now, the brief Mike Richards era of Jeopardy ends after this week, at which point Mayim Bialik is going to take over before a new permanent host is named yet again. Again, the front runner, according to a lot of reports out there, would be Mayim Bialik if Sony, who does Jeopardy, is able to sort of figure out her schedule, which you would think a show that only tapes 20 days a year would be able to figure out a schedule for her. I mean, Aaron Rodgers even famously said he thought he'd be able to play football and host Jeopardy at the same time. So you'd be able to think to make this all work. But Matt Amodio, I just want to say a quick thing on him as a Jeopardy super fan. He's really impressive. And he really doubled down really big last night in Double Jeopardy, but also one of the most boring winners I've ever seen in my life, because you had James Holzhauer and even Ken Jennings who had, these interesting strategies or these interesting personalities that they brought. Matt Amodio, not so much the case on any of that.
Well, the one thing that he does do that I read, and I didn't get to watch it last night, his strategy is that he answers every clue with what is.
Yes, he does, and he gets made fun of a lot for that, yes.
Yeah, so no matter what the subject is, even if it's like, even if it would be like, who is Baker Machado, he just answers, what is Baker Machado? Under the theory that it saves him like a couple of milliseconds, not having to worry about like the agreement there. I don't know. I thought,
but also as a Jeopardy super fan, and also just watching what had happened with the Mike Richards situation, watching yesterday's episode, but I'm gonna feel this way all week, is very surreal, because you're watching a guy who is taping this show under the guise and the assumption that he's the new host. So you have a completely different view on how these episodes worked. And basically, it's only for this week, and then he just disappears. He doesn't say goodbye. He doesn't say anything. One thing I did think that was good, they did name the studio in tribute to Alex Trebek. And last night, for the season opener, they definitely did a big tribute for Alex Trebek, which I did really, really love. All right, Carlo, we got to talk about the biggest story of my life for today, the Met Gala. The stars out here in Manhattan last night for the big Met Gala, that after last year's pandemic hiatus. Now, the theme this year, and a lot of celebrities probably missed this memo, American independence, though, as usual, not a lot of stars followed it last night. Now, there were a lot of amazing standout looks. Billie Eilish really got a lot of attention last night, channeling Marilyn Monroe in an incredible blue Oscar de la Renta dress. Lil Nas X had not one, not two, but three different looks last night, and a big reveal on each one of them. One of them was a three-piece gold armor that almost looked like C-3PO from Star Wars. Rihanna also came in a black Balenciaga overcoat. And then the big one, obviously, you're going to see probably a lot in conservative news circles. AOC, she showed up in a white dress with the words "tax the rich" written on the back. I'll talk about AOC in a moment, but I just want to say a brief thing about Billie Eilish. I found out last night.
Wait, she wasn't wearing blue. She was wearing that peach Oscar de la Renta dress.
Yes. Did I say blue? Did I say blue? I meant to say, sorry. Clearly a lot of different things happening in my mind. But anyway, with Oscar de la Renta, it was really interesting. I found out last night, so she apparently told Oscar de la Renta, Billie Eilish, that she would wear their dress for the Met Gala if they didn't have any fur in their upcoming collection, and they obliged to that, and they didn't, so they have no fur in their next collection, and that's why you saw Billie Eilish wear that incredible look last night.
She, I think, was one of the standouts for sure. Riri, as always,
yes.
She always kills it at these things. The AOC dress, oh man, I physically cringed when I saw that. Unless there's some sort of like subversive message I'm not really smart enough to get, like wearing a tax the rich dress to the Met Gala where the tickets are like $35,000 a pop.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not the best look.
Carlo, I think she's an incredibly smart cookie. I think she knows exactly what she's doing because she knows wearing that, how it's going to play on Fox News, on Newsmax, all those networks that talk about her ad nauseum. And this is her continuing to occupy space in the conservative ecosphere. That is why she wore that dress. Kim Kardashian, we also saw show up in almost like a full bodysuit last night. And that was basically a lot of the theme. I saw a lot of the outfits last night. Bodysuits were really hot. Some people that did actually do the theme justice wore a lot of flag-inspired outfits. You saw some people wearing denim last night, which was really, really cool as well. There were some face masks last night, which were weird. And I'm not saying like the COVID face masks, because you did see Diane von Furstenberg, incorporate masks into her outfit. You saw J-Lo and Ben Affleck also wear masks last night. But then there were some people wearing full-on weird face masks last night. Evan Mock from Gossip Girl had a weird one. Kim Kardashian had a weird one as well. But this was just amazing to watch, Carlo, because on the heels of the VMAs that we had on Sunday, it's sort of just this feeling again that normalcy, we turned this corner where it's almost like for the last 2 days, I feel like COVID hasn't been a topic of conversation in Hollywood and all these sort of big events. You had basically the VMAs packed to the gills at the Barclays Center. You had the Met Gala basically exactly how it's always traditionally been. And for a moment last night, I just felt like the world was back together and normal again, and I loved it.
Well, I mean, it is true that in places like New York and like most of California, it is basically fine. I mean,
even here in New York City to a certain extent.
Yeah, we got 70% of people vaccinated. We're not seeing a big spike. I mean, I'm still amazed at how many people are walking around outside with masks. And look, do your own thing. I'm not going to be the mask police. I don't care what anybody does. But it is a little bit shocking. It seems like there's so much news. The media makes such a big deal when there's like a spike. A COVID spike, and then they forget to bring up when we're back going down. We are now going down on this Delta spike. That is good news. It's not going to be even everywhere. It's going to be it's still a serious problem in states like Florida, but less so in places like New York, and that's important to remember. Just on the Met Gala and also on COVID, I was excited to see Nicki Minaj last night, but she of course was not there. And only then did I see that she tweeted that the reason why she skipped out on the Met Gala, and she's usually one of the big names to show up in something outrageous, was because of the vaccine requirement. She said she needs to do her own research on the vaccine first after she heard that her cousin's friend in Trinidad got the vaccine and became impotent when his testicles swelled up. That's real. I didn't make that up. Which, of course, is just the dumbest thing to say. I mean, there's 170 million Americans walking around this country who are vaccinated without any health issues. What research are you going to possibly do on YouTube that is more credible than that simple fact? But no, listen to your cousin's friend with the swollen jump.
And by the way, Nicki Minaj, in a very almost bizarre twist, was getting praised heavily by Tucker Carlson last night for that tweet right there that you mentioned. And also, I find it so interesting. I'm sure the myriad of different things Nicki Minaj has probably done with her body. I would assume the vaccine would probably be the least of her concerns. But what she tweeted is incredibly dangerous because it only furthers misinformation and vaccine hesitancy that's out there, because there's still people out there that will see celebrities tweeting this and all the power that they have and be like, look, this is only affirming my belief also about the vaccine also.
People listen to celebrities. They have to be more careful. And also, It's also just a reminder, and I know that I have said this before, but I want to say it again. Despite the sort of media narrative that there, at least in some places, that there is a monolithic block of vaccine hesitant people that sort of coincides almost exactly with Trump supporting MAGA types. That's just not true. It is much more complicated than that. Nicki Minaj is a great example. She's not some like Trump supporter in the South.
Right.
The vaccine hesitancy in the Black community, in the sort of wellness community, it's not as simple as just blaming Trump supporters for not getting vaccinated. It goes much deeper than that, into some real serious issues with just this country as a whole.
So back to the Met Gala. Do you think Billie Eilish was your standout performance last night?
I have to say, I think Billie Eilish and Riri were my favorites.
Amazing.
With
amazing.
The caveat that I know nothing. I don't know anything about
No,
this
but that's
stuff,
fine. And by the way, if you look at Billie Eilish's dress, I don't think it sounds like American independence to me, but you know what? If you pull it off and you look amazing, as good as she did last night, I think you don't need to worry about the theme.
Okay, well, that does it for today's edition of Cheddar Fashion Police with Carlo. I always love things like the Met Gala because it's like it gives an opportunity for people like me to like give fashion advice. It's like I'm sitting here in the same pair of athletic shorts that I've more or less been wearing for the last 18 months. Like, who the hell am I to judge?
Right, but this is why it's great. Everybody can be their own critic on this thing, which is amazing.
Exactly. All right. Well, Baker, 6th Man of the Year, going on 3 years running now. Thank you for stepping in today.
Always.
Always a pleasure. And that's what you need to know, guys, for Tuesday, September 14th.